Today I'm going to tell you a story of incredible gullibility and ignorance. You've heard the saying, there's a sucker born every day? This is the story of one of those suckers. Our story begins in the year 326, here in Aelia Capitolina. It used to be called Jerusalem, and as a rebuilt city, looks like many other Roman cities with forums, colonnade streets, and Roman temples. 257 years ago, it was a thriving Jewish city with a huge temple that could be seen from miles away. The Jews that occupied the city were engaged in a war with the Roman Empire. 256 years ago, that temple became just a pile of rubble. In the years between AD 70 and AD 326, Jerusalem had undergone a lot of changes. The Jews had revolted twice more, and finally, after the Romans conquered them again, they kicked all the Jews out of Jerusalem, all of Judea for that matter. They renamed the city Aelia Capitolina, and most of the city was rebuilt. One of the things the Romans built was a temple to the Roman goddess Venus, right here. Why this temple is a pile of rubble is where our story gets good. In 326, it was a normal Roman temple. 14 years earlier, the Roman Emperor Constantine won a great battle at the Milvian Bridge. Right before that battle, Constantine had seen a vision of a cross. Right after the battle, Constantine attributed some part of his victory to this vision, and he decided that the previously illegal religion of Christianity should now be tolerated. This was great news for Constantine's mother, Helena. She was already a devout Christian, and she convinced her son to fund an expedition to Jerusalem to find the places detailed in the Christian Gospels. Helena gets to Jerusalem, and one of the locals tells her that Jesus' tomb is actually right under the Temple of Venus. Helena has the temple destroyed so that she can find this tomb. Under the rubble, the locals pull out 3 crosses. Remember that Jesus was supposedly crucified with 2 criminals, so these crosses must have been those 3 crosses. That's what the locals tell Helena, and she is eager to believe it. Of course, Helena doesn't know which one is the true cross of Jesus. So the locals bring a disease-ridden old lady, and she touches all 3 crosses. One of the crosses she touches immediately heals her. So Helena determines this is the actual cross of Jesus. She also finds the nails and plaque that was tacked up over Jesus' head when he was on the cross. Now let's take a closer look at this story. Do you know how long untreated wood lasts when laying in dirt?
No.
Well, it will last about a year before it starts to disintegrate. After a couple years, there will be just a few broken pieces, and after about 10 years, it will be completely gone. Maybe a pile of dust will remain if no one disturbs it. These local inhabitants presented Helena with 3 intact crosses that were laying in the dirt for almost 300 years. Even if you want to believe that Jesus' cross had some miraculous ability not to wither away, that wouldn't explain how the other 2 crosses were still in their original condition. But this is only part of the story, because we also have to assume that the people who buried Jesus' body decided to put his execution tools with the body. It would be as if a family member gathered the executed body and also asked for the noose or electric chair too. Why they would also ask for the execution tools of the others killed that day is yet another ridiculous mystery. If that's not enough, one should remember that the Romans reused the standing or vertical part of the cross. When they crucified someone, they used a new crossbeam, but the vertical post was already there to be used numerous times until it fell apart. When a body was removed, the crossbeam was thrown away and the vertical post was put back so it could be used again. Of course, the locals that showed Helena the 3 crosses showed her 3 complete crosses, with the vertical post too. Basically, these local hucksters were able to sell the mother of the Roman Empire a plank of wood. They probably made a fortune from it. They told her it was the original cross, and she was gullible enough to believe it, because she wanted to believe it. So this foolish old woman proclaimed this piece of cross was the true cross of Jesus, and brought it back with her to Rome, or wherever her son was residing while building his new capital city. This temple of Venus would be destroyed, and Helena would have a new church built in its place. It was named the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. In some ways it is too bad this wasn't special wood, because Christians many centuries later would go into battle believing they had a piece of the true cross to protect them. They were all killed, the piece of wood was captured by the enemy, and sold back to Christians many years later. The moral of this story is that Christian gullibility knows no bounds. They'll believe any story to be true, regardless of how absurd, if they think it will improve their faith. You should keep this in mind the next time someone tells you that God created the sun, but there was never a time that the sun did not exist. Or that a piece of bread turns into the actual body of Christ as soon as a priest or preacher commands it to do so. Remember, these same people are telling you that you are sinful and bad and going to hell if you just lead your life normally. Not only will they believe just about anything, but they'll try to convince you to believe it too. As we go back to the modern world, we can be glad that we have the tools to examine and rule out these superstitions. And the next time a Christian asks you to believe something on mere faith, you can ask them if they believe an untreated piece of wood used to execute some insignificant thief can lay in the dirt for 300 years and still remain intact.